All right, this is Patrick Rogers, and today we have the privilege to have Michele Knox on the show. And Michele is the CEO of WindSolar USA. Welcome to the show, Michele.
Thank you, Patrick. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So, a little bit about Michele. In 2008, she formed WindSolar USA Incorporated to provide all market segments an opportunity to be more sustainable and have a level of energy self-sufficiency. She received her training through the Midwest Renewable Energy Association in Custer, Wisconsin, and she's a certified site assessor for both solar photovoltaic and solar thermal
Photovoltaics.
photovoltaic. I'm an engineer. I should know this stuff, right?
That's
Well,
okay.
recovering engineer. She's completed over 300 photovoltaic projects ranging in size from 1 kilowatt to 160 kilowatts, various LED lighting, and several wind and solar pool heating projects. She's written and been awarded multiple grants from USDA Rural Development's Rural Energy for America program. That's a mouthful. And Rural Business Development Grant, as well as ICECF to fund 1 kilowatt plus educational solar installments to 13 schools across the state of Illinois, Children's Museum, and a zoo. She's an advocate and promoter of renewable education and continues to use her teaching and fundraising skills from previous occupations to further the advancement of the solar market statewide through her work and affiliation with the Illinois Solar Energy Association. To which she served on the board of directors from 2013 to 16. She's also an adjunct instructor for Lincoln Land Community College, Introduction to Solar Photovoltaic and PV Site Assessment classes twice per year. So can't wait to dive in. It sounds like you've just really immersed yourself in this industry, Michele. Before we do, though, what's one interesting fact about yourself that not many people know?
Well, when I was in high school, I was voted most likely to beat the system by my fellow students.
Oh,
I took that very seriously. So when I went out in the business world, I decided that's what my ambition was, and I was going to prove all of my fellow Nokomis High School students. I was gonna make them proud, and so that's what my ambition has been to do.
there you go. Well, it sounds like you're well on your way.
Yes.
So tell us about WindSolar USA and tell us a little bit about your journey since starting.
Yeah. Well, my story about how I got started is kind of interesting. I had a friend who was from Colorado. Colorado is a more advanced solar market, or at least it was back in 2008.
Hmm.
And we were having some adult beverages. And he said to me, I wonder if someone could buy solar, take a loan out, put solar on their house, and then use the utility savings each month to be able to pay for that system, eventually pay it off, and then have free energy from the sun at the end. I was
Mm,
like, wow, I wonder that as well. And that was in 2007. I was a Montessori
yeah.
teacher at the time.
Okay.
And so I
Wow.
decided to embark upon trying to figure out if that could happen. At the time, I thought I did think it could happen, and I thought paybacks would be about 20 years. The systems are warranted for 25 years. So I thought, well, who wouldn't want to do that and have something pay for itself and then have free energy at the end? So I began training, as I mentioned, back in 2008 through the Midwest Renewable Energy Association. At the time, there were only two training centers in the whole United States,
Mm,
one in Wisconsin, one in Colorado. Wisconsin was much closer. So I went about doing my training, and then for about 3.5 years, I did training, research, and development, and establishing partnerships through a distribution network, number one, and then installers, things of that nature. And then I went full time in November of 2011. Worked on my own out of my home until 2016, at which
mm,
time I got an office downtown Springfield, the
hmm.
roof you see behind me.
All right.
Um, and then at that time, I have worked out of the Springfield office ever since 2016, and the company has continued to grow. I now have an office manager, I have four different install teams actually working with us, and
Oh,
we
nice.
cover
Yeah.
pretty much
Yeah.
Peoria, Illinois, all the way down to Cairo. So pretty much
Okay.
central and southern Illinois.
Gotcha. And you're at over 2.7 million now.
Yes, last year was our best year ever. And when I started the business, my ambition was to build something from nothing.
Mm,
That was really my goal, to see if I could, just through
yeah.
my own assets, invest in my education and so on, not have to take out a lot of expensive loans to be able to build the
Sure.
business and then have it end up being something. So to end 2023 with 2.7 million was quite an accomplishment, and felt really good in terms of meeting my goal.
Gotcha. And well, first of all, congratulations on that. You know, it's
Thank
only
you.
less
Thank
than
you.
4% of businesses in the United States reach over 1 million, so it's fantastic. So what does this year look for like for you guys?
Well, so far we are booked through the end of July,
Mm,
with two teams working in Central and one in Southern.
that's
And
got to be
so
nice.
I'm looking at expansion opportunities. Like, will I need to expand and have more installation teams to continue to meet the demand that we're now having in Illinois?
So what's your competition like there? I mean, if when I'm hearing that you're booked out till July, that things that come into my mind are, is there competition there? Are they booked out as well? Are you, yeah.
Yeah, so Illinois is a very competitive state now, and a big part of the reason for that is that we have a great incentive program. We have legislation that passed called the Climate
Okay.
and Equitable Jobs Act,
Okay.
and it basically allows for renewable energy credits, incentives that help customers be able to go
Mm-hmm.
solar. And
Mm-hmm.
the whole idea behind the program is that as a state, we have a goal of 40% renewables by 2030, with then a longer term goal of 100% renewables by 2050. And so, in order to meet that goal, there needed to be an aggressive legislative plan to help utilities to get there and to help individuals and businesses and industrial users to be able to afford solar and adopt it, and then create that back end of the 40% by 2030. So
Mm.
because of that, we have a lot of not only developers that have been in the state all along in the trenches fighting for this legislation and so on, but we have a lot of out-of-state folks that have also recognized that Illinois is a great opportunity, and are now coming into the state and doing business. So we see more competition than I used to previously. When I first started, it was go out, sit around the table, or at the
Mm.
business owner's
They
place,
just
or
come to you.
around the kitchen table, have
Yeah.
pumpkin pie and coffee, and discuss solar.
Uh-huh.
Nowadays, of course, we're doing it in a much more automated fashion. I think if there's anything good that came of COVID, it's that we learned how to be a little more efficient in our business operations. So folks are able to do presentations basically from anywhere. And
Sure.
one thing I've always been proud of is being local, though, using local labor, American products, things of that nature. So I've had to find ways to differentiate myself from the competition. And my two ways of doing that are the American products, well, three ways: American products, local labor, um, and education. I believe that if I'm a good educator and I do a good job of presenting the material to the customer, that it sells itself. That I'm not a salesperson. I'm just an educator.
Mm. Gotcha. And so that's allowed you to differentiate yourself and be able to demand the prices that you
Yeah.
need. Yeah. Yeah. Good.
While still being competitive. It's
Yeah.
important that the pricing has to be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, marketing American products, especially when I started, was not something that everyone was doing.
Mm.
A lot were just going for the lowest price products to be able to keep project costs low and make more sales. I understand that philosophy, but I do think that if we're going to return manufacturing to the United States and continue to create jobs and growth opportunities here, that we all need to be cognizant of that and doing our part. And so
Mm.
I made a commitment that I wanted to do that from the beginning.
I love that. I love that. So, you guys are so 2008, 2016, you were doing it still at that point by yourself.
Mhm.
Yep. And then so since 2016, so in the last 7 years or so, that's when you really started building the team and expanding. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. How have you done that? Like what kind of marketing did you do? I know you said at first it was just kind of, having coffee and such, but what kind of things have you done you mentioned automate that or to utilize the internet with COVID? Was COVID when you started seeing a real big increase or
No, it was previous to that. We had
it
a we
was
had a
previous?
really good year, and it just had been amping up each year. And in
Okay.
2019, we had a wonderful year,
Okay.
our best
Wow.
ever,
Wow.
to that point. And then COVID hit, and we were booked in 2020 through the end of May by the time February rolled around. So we were already starting to kind of be where we are now, but just not as advanced. But then when COVID hit in March, from
Hmm.
there on out, it was like birds chirping. The phones quit ringing. There were no sales opportunities
Right.
coming in.
Yeah.
And luckily, I was positioned to where I could maintain myself and my office manager. I didn't have to lay anybody off or do anything different. I was a little silly in that I didn't even apply for the first round of PPP funds because I thought, well, I don't really need them. You know,
Yeah.
I did well last year. I should leave those for folks that really need them. And then I realized, well, everyone's going to use that, so you're kind of being silly, Michelle. Um, but throughout the process, yes, we became more automated in doing presentations via Zoom, kind of like you and I are
Yeah.
doing today,
Yeah.
sharing my screen. I went to a different cost modeling software program that's offered nationally, but we spent 3 months developing it in the way that we wanted it to flow so
Hmm.
that it made sense to consumers and that I was sure that they could understand solar. Solar isn't rocket science, but it's a little intimidating to folks because it's a new technology. And so I wanted to be able to educate and explain things in the easiest way that made people feel comfortable with their decision to purchase. Um, and in terms of marketing, really early on, I did a lot of educational presentations to the community. So I'd go around and would host educational opportunities where folks would come and I'd do a presentation and we'd have appetizers, hors d'oeuvres, drinks, things of that nature, and give them a non-confrontational place to be able to sit
Yeah.
and just learn a little bit.
Mm.
um, I feel like that was really good towards advancing. And then we got to the point where we have enough customers now, and our customers are very well educated. So they're kind of like little solar salespeople
Marketing
that are
people.
out in the
Yeah. Yeah.
field. Yeah, telling all their friends and family about it. And then I just developed a referral program. So if you sent your friend or family my direction, gave them my name and number, they call me, we go through it, we notate that you did that. And then if it results in a sale, after we've completed their install, I send you a check for $100 as a thank you for giving them my name and number. And that program has worked really well. It keeps us flowing in the same circle of people.
Hmm.
People that come to us are already partially educated just because the customers have done that wonderful thing for us. So it's been great in terms of keeping my advertising budget low. And in case of me being able to send these wonderful little thank you cards with checks to customers. And I just feel I call it my solar family.
Yeah. Makes sense. And I know you said when I asked you what was the biggest failure as the CEO of your company, you said it was to understand the value of that expertise and to not give away your knowledge for free.
Yeah. And, you know, it probably wasn't until I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but it probably wasn't until 2023 that I really started to recognize this because previous, you know, I felt like in the beginning I was kind of like the velveteen rabbit where you think you're real, but you don't know if you're real yet. And, you know, so I was always trying to prove myself and to never really considered myself an industry expert. Even today, I don't, because I think there's always so much ever changing that, you know, I consider myself well educated, but I don't know that I go an expert. But when you get to a certain level, people are looking and relying on you for information. And I found that many times we were being asked to design and put together big models and do a lot of work, especially on larger commercial projects.
Hmm.
Um, but then we do a presentation and then they might take our presentation and they might run it and put it out to everybody else and go with somebody else because they were $1,000 cheaper than us.
Hmm.
And I came to recognize that what we do is really a benefit in terms of the education
Yeah. Totally.
and that we should so I set up like a letter of intent that I do with
Hmm.
potential commercial customers, and we will agree to develop the project, put everything together, fully educate them, share the documents. We just charge on a, you know, hourly consulting fee basis.
Good for
And
you.
then
Yeah.
when we have offered when the deliverable is ready, they pay that consulting fee. We share the deliverable. And then if they end up moving forward with us doing the project, we take that cost off of their project cost. If they decide not to, that's okay. They've paid us for our work and they then have good information that they can go out and seek other bids and quotes with. And that's
Gotcha.
worked really well. And so I'd say to other CEOs as you're starting, understand your value and don't be
Mhm.
afraid. to get compensated for it.
Yeah, I love that. In fact, there's some other people as a business consultant that I've run across, and sometimes they'll spend upwards of 10 to 20 hours in their company producing a bid for somebody without any
Yes.
kind of like what you did, a letter of intent, 10 to 20 hours. And then they're just like, oh, we're great. Like you said, I'm going to go somewhere else. Sorry. Thanks for the information.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it was actually one of my partners on the electrical side that said to me, Michelle, you've got to stop doing this. So it was a partner that actually stepped up and like bonged me in the head
Yeah.
and said, okay, and shared his letter of intent, which I then tweaked. So that's the other great thing I think about business is if you're in one where you need to have other affiliates, I'm
Mm.
a big advocate of establishing partners.
Mm.
I've done that with my distribution network, with my installation network. So I use the same people every time. We work together for efficiency. We're all out to make sure that we're all being as profitable together as we can be. And I think that's a really important thing in business these days is partnerships.
Gotcha. And does that go, I know you mentioned this concept of the group buy program that you established. Does that go hand in hand with that, or is that separate?
It does. And so what I recognized, and this was probably back in 2016, I recognized that larger projects had economies of scale.
Mm.
So when you were buying a larger volume of products, like say for a megawatt install,
Mhm.
you were going to get reduced pricing because of that volume. And so I thought to myself, well, why couldn't it be that I just agreed that I was going to, over the course of a year,
Mhm.
buy this volume of products and then would request pricing that would be appropriate for that volume that I would be given upfront. And then I could offer that all year long to small projects that I'm developing. So basically, the smaller folks got to have the benefits of the larger folks.
Mm.
And then at the end of the year, if I didn't meet the commitment, there would be a clawback against me. So that way it would be fair to the distributor as well. So
Excellent.
initially, when I did this, we started and I put out the several scenarios for different distributors to quote. I did that for 2 years, and I think I had 3 to 5 distributors quoting this, and then went with the one that came back with the best pricing. And had also I'd worked with before because these were all folks I'd worked with before. And then I did it again the second year. The same entity came back, and then after that, I just stuck with the same partnership. So I get this group buy pricing extended to me from the distributor every year.
Mm.
And then in addition to that, because I use the same manufacturers, my distributor then helped me to define special purchase agreements with the manufacturers so that on top of the group buy pricing that I'm getting from the distributor, I'm also getting a special purchase price on all the products that I buy for the projects. So when you put all that together, it allows me as a smaller developer to be able to have the pricing the larger developers do,
Mm. Love
and
that.
also to be able to market American products
Mhm.
versus foreign products and still be price competitive.
Got it. Yeah, I love it. Very good. So what's if you're going to hire a CEO to take the reins for your company, what's the one book that you would require he or she read before taking over for you?
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So basically, it's just a very, this might surprise you, Patrick. I'm a teacher. I was a teacher for 10 years, and you would think that I would be an avid reader. I see all your books behind you.
Uh-huh.
But when I was in the second grade, they told me that I was going to have to wear bifocals because I was reading the Little House on the Prairie books too much. And my eyes were starting to cross. Well, so I just kind of quit reading at that time, other than just little short snippets. So I'm not a big like
Yeah.
novelist, self-help book kind of reader, but my cousin, who's a librarian, shared that book with me quite some time ago. And it was easy to read, and it just reminds you stay focused on the big picture and don't worry about
Mhm.
this little stuff that happens on a day-to-day basis.
I love that. Yeah, I think we can all use that as a reminder. We do tend very easily to get distracted and pulled away from the main thing, right? Make the main thing the main thing.
And overwhelmed, just overwhelmed.
Totally.
And so if we learn to, focus on the things that are really important, that's what's going to keep your business moving and being successful. And that other little stuff, just let it go.
Yeah. Fantastic. So let me ask, what's your if there was one takeaway that you'd really like the audience to get from our time together today, what would that be, Michelle?
I think believe in yourself
Mm,
is a number one important. Back to my Velveteen Rabbit story, when I started, I had this vision and this idea, based on having adult beverages. And I had to develop this was like it's kind of like pioneering, I guess, because there was no set way to do anything in the solar industry.
mm,
And so I had to believe in myself. I had to believe that if I did this, that it was all going to end up working out in the end. And that's hard. It's hard to keep yourself focused, especially when you have setbacks. I was a female, primarily working and at the time, more of a male
Male dominant.
industry. And so I had that to overcome.
Mhm.
When I was taking my training, I'm working with I'm taking my training up there, and everybody else in the class is pretty much male, and also an electrician or an electrical engineer. And then here's little old Michelle with her business experience coming in, going to start this solar business. And so that is in and of itself was intimidating, but everybody was super kind, has been helpful along the way, and I just maintained the belief that I could do it. And so if I can leave everyone with something, it's that believe in yourself and never give up on your dream.
Fantastic. I love that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Michelle, thanks again for being on the show. It's great to hear your journey and how successful you've been, especially not coming from any background or experience in this industry. You're like, this is just what I want to do. I love I have a passion for the industry and what its purpose is, and you just keep nailing it. So congratulations. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Patrick, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. And for the listeners out there, please hit the like and subscribe button and help us spread the word about what we're doing. We're helping the next generation of CEOs and leaders be that much more successful. With that, this is your host, Patrick Rogers, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks a lot.